Welcome to the B.F. Anderson Technical Report for September the 15th. Thomas Edison, great inventor. You know, the thing about inventing that you should be aware of is that you can really find some excellent investments based on new inventions. And, you know, when Edison first invented the light bulb, now he was a serial inventor, constantly inventing. But inventing the light bulb, that was the big one. And, you know, when they first came out, they had to spend all kind of processes trying to figure out what to use for a filament. And the first filament that was successful was sewing thread with carbon on it, and it went from there. And then the problem was that the light bulb initially was too expensive because they were making them by hand. But then once they started getting into mass production of the light bulb, well, the rest is history. So let's just kind of look at an invention situation. This is Tesla. You know, when we first discovered Tesla, it was around 2012. We started to hear about it. And I actually got on a plane and flew out to Tacoma, Washington, and ended up going to Bellevue, Washington. And it was interesting because my wife was with me, and she simply said, "Why are we going here? Why are we going to this Tesla gallery to look at these cars? Are we going to buy the car?" And I said, "No, we're just looking at it for research purposes." Well, we get there, and my wife actually drives the car on the test drive, and she looked over at me and said, "We got to get this thing." So it was really apparent at the time that this was going to be a meaningful invention of the electric car. So you can kind of see here, though, the stock, between 2012 and April of 2013, the stock was difficult. It really, it wasn't obvious. It wasn't apparent. Well, all of a sudden, the market says, "Hey, look over here. Look at this volume coming in. Look over here. This is something you should be paying attention to. This is a new invention." And then you actually had a second buy signal come in, around May the 10th in that area of 2013. So inventions are important, and they're a good place to keep an eye on. We're seeing some even now, that are really catching my eye. Now, I did want to mention this. This is not going to be the market's leadership. This is, the Campbell Soup. You can see it rolling over here, breaking down. This is kind of the opposite of what you should be looking for. Here is the sentiment readings. I wanted to call the sentiment readings to your attention. We're getting, a lot of bearishness, a lot of pessimism. The market dropped about 1,200 points on Tuesday. And so this is just really creating. Now, this hasn't been updated yet. It's updated this afternoon. But I have a feeling we're going to continue to get, very pessimistic readings. But that's what kind of creates the buying opportunity. And it's also where you're probably going to see these inventions because they're going to hold up. Their stocks are going to hold up. Now, let's just kind of take a look at what's going on right now. NASDAQ, we came down into a downtrend. We had a short rally, broke out above the lower moving average, but then last Tuesday, big breakdown, continued to be in somewhat of a downtrend. So, we're making, lower lows. We're not really making higher highs. Therefore, just continue to be somewhat cautious on the broad market. This is the mid caps, kind of the same thing. We're not seeing much improvement there. New York Stock Exchange, basically same story. I'm showing you all these indexes because, most people keep an eye on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Well, that's only 30 stocks, and the Dow Jones Industrials is 30 industrial cyclicals. So you want to kind of spread out a little bit and look at more than just one index. So we look at 5. Here's the small caps. You can continue to see the problem. If the S&P, which is an important index, this is 500 stocks, if it can't hold this 3,900, it could be an issue, and we could retest these lows over here. So, the tides, which this is what we call this, the tides are out, they're not in, and so we just need to be aware of that. Now, here's the 200-day moving average. Really not a pretty picture here. You got a downtrending 200-day. We rallied up to it, failed. We're attempting to rally now, but again, if we can't hold this 3,900 area, we could retest the lows. Now, this is the aggression index. Now, this is looking a little optimistic here because, we've had pretty much a waterfall decline in this ratio, which is a ratio of technology to things like Campbell Soup. You can see here, though, that it's starting to kind of develop an uptrend here. It made a low. Now it's making a higher low, made a higher high. So if it could hold in here and, if we could break out above like 175 on the ratio, I think that would be a pretty positive scenario. Now, here are interest rates and our three economic indicators we keep an eye on. Interest rates are definitely in an uptrend. The Fed is doing what they have to do. Oil prices, however, are somewhat in a downtrend, and financial stocks are just kind of basically moving sideways. But we do want strong banks, no doubt about it. New lows, we're starting to see an elevated new lows picture here. We're back above 40 a day, which is kind of the magic number. Then we have this IPO fund, which is the Renaissance IPO, which is stocks that have recently gone public. It's a pretty growthy ETF. So, if this thing can get going and we get to in some type of uptrend here, because the bear market is going to be led, when we come out of a bear market and start a new bull market, it's going to be led by growth stocks. And so right now we're just kind of not seeing what we need to see there. It's still somewhat in a downtrend. Now on trend strength, we actually got back up into some of the moving averages. However, back down to zero. Again, it's important that the S&P continue to hold this 3,900 area. And we can see we're back to zero on the S&P as well. The VIX volatility kind of stays somewhat elevated right now. It just seems like the market's in a trading range. We get down to readings of 20, and then we get the big drop on last Tuesday, and so volatility picks back up again. Now, if we can see the VIX get up in this area here, that could be a capitulation low. We'll just have to see. Yield curve was improving, now starting to deteriorate. Again, the yield curve is pretty much indicating that we're probably having a recession. Now, these are the top five. Let's just kind of see where the action is. Again, oil and gas, this is Comstock Resources, broke out to an all-time new high on above average volume. So actually the oil and gas stocks, even though the price of oil is in a downtrend, these stocks continue to act strong. This is Enphase Energy. This is a really interesting company here. They're involved in, speaking of inventions, they have pretty much invented what we call a microinverter, which is used for solar. Now, it's very controversial, these renewable fuels. But this new act that Washington just passed, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, I know it's controversial, and I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about it, but we're going to see a lot of capital start to flow into these areas, and that's really what capitalism is all about. We want to see capital flow to the areas that solve problems. So, with any invention like the light bulb, it solved a problem. Well, solar could be a problem solver. Keep an eye on it. Here's EQT Corp. Again, this is another oil and gas situation. Again, good volume, breaking out of a base here. So the oil and gas stocks continue to stay strong. This is a company called Karuna Therapeutics. Biotech, broke out, had a gap up, continuing to hold the gap, but I would only watch this one. I would not pay too much attention to it. Albemarle, this is another one of these, renewable fuel situations. They are a big producer of lithium. So the lithium battery, if you really think about it, it's pretty much changed our lives because I was just noticing this morning my electric toothbrush, which runs on a rechargeable lithium battery. I've had that toothbrush for about 10 years, and I've never had the first problem with it. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot of opportunities in the market today, having to do with alternative energies, and that's really one of the big areas. And so when we see companies like First Solar, Enphase, another company we like called Wolfspeed, these companies are all getting grants on this new bill that just passed that's going to allow them to ramp up production in building major new plants. And when they can ramp up production, the prices of this stuff is going to come down and it could become mainstream. So if you have any questions, please let me know.